So that's my study to determine the rates and determinants of suboptimal HIV viral suppression among adolescents in the post-viral load monitoring scale-up era. And I'm doing the study in 2 HIV clinics in Uganda. So a lot of this has already been discussed as the introduction and background, that HIV control efforts have managed to reduce the prevalence from its highest at 18.2, that was in 92, up to the current one of 7.4 in 2015, though this has been overtaken, of course, by the most recent findings, which have brought it slightly lower than this. And again, we've heard that the scale-up of viral load monitoring was taken up by Uganda in 2014 as part of the commitment to achieving the 90-90-90 targets. And we find that for the adult population, that is for those who are 25 years and above, the country is on track to achieving the 90-90 targets, especially among those who have accessed a viral load test. So according to the CPHL dashboard, we're at 93.3%. That was at 2016 when this was conceptualized. But for the adolescents, it keeps progressively decreasing. From less than 19 to 25, it comes to something like 89%. And then 10 to 19, which is my target population, it reduces further to 75.2%. And when you go lower, it still continues to drop. So essentially, this study was to identify those factors that are associated with suboptimal viral suppression among adolescents. And I'm targeting 2 large HIV clinics in Uganda. So those are the objectives to determine the prevalence. The general objective is to determine the prevalence and associated factors of suboptimal viral suppression among adolescents. And specifically, I'm going to determine the prevalence of the suboptimal viral suppression in Mulago ISS Clinic and Wizwera Health Center for in Mbarara, as well as to assess the factors that are responsible for this suboptimal viral suppression in those 2 clinics. In terms of the methods, so the setting, like I've already said, it will be 2 HIV clinics, 1 rural, 1 urban. That's the Mulago ISS Clinic here on Mulago Hill and Wizwera Health Center for in Mbarara. These offer services to over 18,000, a combined total of 18,000, more than 18,000 patients. This figure was as at end of 2016. It's much higher now, especially in the era of test and treat. And they have nearly the same number of adolescents within the age range that I'm interested, about 200, on average 220, 224, 234. That's Wizwera and ISS respectively. The population is HIV positive adolescents, 10 to 19. Those attending those 2 clinics and have been on ART for at least 6 months, and therefore should have had a viral load test done on them already. And of course, they have to give consent, and in cases where they are lower than 18, they have to get assent as well. I mean, we have to get parental consent as well, and they give their assent. The study design is cross-sectional in nature. It's a mixed methods, convergent parallel design. So we shall do both the quantitative and the qualitative at the same time and converge at the level of analysis. And the quantitative will be interviewer-administered questionnaires, whereas the qualitative is in-depth interviews. And these in-depth interviews will be done for getting an in-depth understanding of the factors that are responsible for the non-suppression. And this will be among the non-suppressing, as well as non-suppressing adolescents, as well as expert clients and adolescent counselors. So the sampling procedure, we shall use proportionate stratified sampling, use a ratio of about 1:1 because the patient numbers are nearly similar for the 2 clinics. And then at the clinic level, we'll do simple random sampling for the all eligible, considering all the eligible adolescents as part of the sampling frame. For the qualitative, we shall do convenient sampling and that is for all the in-depth interviews. So the non-suppressing adolescents, as well as expert adolescents and adolescent counselors. For the sample size, we'll use that formula for determining sample size for proportions with a finite correction factor incorporated, and the sample size is 191. For the qualitative, we plan to do 18 in-depth interviews, up to 6 of them with the adolescent counselors and 12 with the non-suppressing adolescents. So the progress, the proposal was finalized. I got the approval from the Research and Ethics Committee, Makerere University Higher Degrees. I've already sought and got the permission from the data collection centers. That is all the different protocols in the data collection centers have already gone through and got the permission. And data collection is ongoing. For the ISS clinic, we've collected we're close to 50% of the data. But for the Bwizibura, because of the bureaucratic procedure for the data, for the permission, we're mostly doing the preliminary stages. We are contacting, because our study involves waiting for some clients to come, as well as contacting other clients to invite them for the data collection. So we are mostly doing those preliminary phases, but once that is done, we anticipate that the data collection should take about 3 weeks to a month. So I expect the data collection to be complete by the end of April, and that is worst case scenario. And then within the month of May is when I expect to do the analysis and the report writing. Yeah, and then hopefully after May is when I expect to do the manuscript and have it ready. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmed. We need some questions. I can ask a question.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thank you very much. I can see you are talking of rates in the title. But when I look at the objectives, there is nothing for some rate. They are only prevalence. Probably we need to revise your title to reflect. I don't know whether that was the one for Arabia, but in the objectives, there is no rate. In that perspective. So maybe you may need to revise that. Yeah, I think that may be the major issue which I see there. That your title and they don't like very well. Maybe, maybe. You are saying you're going to do interviews to counselors and patients.
Sorry?
In-depth interviews to counselors and patients.
Yes.
I thought that's like the key format interview. I don't know. Because they are, the in-depth test will be the patients, but not for counselors, they are key format interview. Just what you wanted to make clarification. I think you say, in case you be comfortable emotionally, that's something.
Wondering whether the funding that determines how much one does, or the person decides to do what they do. Because the way she did hers, it was sort of stepwise. First establish what the facts are, then looking at predictors, barriers, then intervention, which I thought was lacking in this. After finding out what's happening to the adolescents, what can we do about it? Because I think we already know from other settings that they're not adhering well and they have their own issues. And then how can we help them in the next step? So can he add a component to it meant a component or maybe an intervention to help the adolescents adhere better?
I think we talked about that, but you know, the master's program is time bound, and also sometimes they look at the scope of what you're going to do and whether that fits into your program. But I don't think if he writes a good proposal with that will not be reviewed by the program. I think there's a possibility.
And I think if you are doing a master's degree, you must write a proposal that should meet those requirements. But some people, like who are doing online implementation science course, they might have a component as part of the online course, and then have other objectives that they are doing as part of either PhD or as part of another project or something. It's very important.
Doing a lot, must be getting some good funding out there.
I think it's the research question. And as I can hear, I think there is a lot of people, and I'm hoping that we will all work together to make sure that the program stays and is funded beyond where we are. And I think we'll talk about this at the end, because if we do, then there will be another opportunity for people to then build on what they have done, and for the people who are doing masters to be able to do proper implementation science projects. But the program has to stay to facilitate that, and you will be the reasons whether it stays or it doesn't. It means each one of us has to really put their efforts and do what is expected of us. Make sure, because we regularly have to present reports to the funders, and then they determine whether what we're doing is reasonable or it's just a wasted resources. So I guess that's the best answer. So any other comments?
Maybe for Richard's comment, it's actually key informant and in-depth interviews. I might have just skipped putting it in here, but for the adolescents, it's in-depth interviews, whereas for other informants, it's key informant interviews.
I thought we were changing the rates.
No, somehow I think it's something we're going to.
Can you scroll back on your meetings? Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. You want to move the word base.
Okay.
Because unless you maybe you include rates, how you determine rates. It's better to move it for the last side.
Okay, thank you. So we have two presentations, and so